New kinds of industries arise every time there is some kind of new wave of automation. It's going to free us up from all of this routine work that so many people do. Well, I think we're in the middle of a big AI bubble. It's getting pretty bad, and my advice would be, don't invest in artificial intelligence.
And before we start, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Well, my name is Jerry Kaplan. I'm a PhD in artificial intelligence many, many years ago. I've been a Silicon Valley entrepreneur for many decades, and currently I teach social and economic impact of artificial intelligence at Stanford, where I'm an adjunct lecturer. Well, the best way to understand what artificial intelligence is going to do to society in general, and of course to people's jobs in particular, is to understand that it is a new wave of automation. The main effect, which is important to bear in mind, is they make us much wealthier as a society in general, in total. That doesn't mean every individual necessarily gets wealthier, but society in general does. Previous waves of automation, from the Industrial Revolution all the way through the internet, have had exactly this effect. And the net result has been, here in the United States, that over the last 2 centuries, the average household income has just about doubled every 40 years. Now, I know it doesn't seem like that necessarily, but Korea, it's been even more dramatic. If you look at the average household income in 1950 in Korea and the average household income today, it's many, many times greater today than it was then. Korea has gone over that 75-year period from being a relatively agrarian society of farms and growing food to being an amazing and powerful industrial powerhouse as a country. So it's now, of course, among the wealthiest and most developed countries in the world. And it's a wonderful place, and I love it. But the other thing that it does is that automation changes the nature of work. And others are created how to work those machines, how to build those machines. So I don't think it's realistic to think that jobs are going to suddenly go away and we're all going to have no work. There'll be plenty of work in the future, but the nature of that work will be very different than it is today. Well, this is a very broad question. How is it going to affect the actual jobs that people actually do? Little by little, we're beginning to get in focus on what's happening. And in some sense, puts them out of work. In another sense, it gives them the ability to do more work and to do it better work and in a very, very different way. Let me give you a historical example that I think points this out. When the personal computer was first brought into commercial use, and I'm sorry to say I'm old enough to remember when that actually happened, in around 1980, it became immediately obvious to people in the accounting profession that these systems could do work in minutes that would take them weeks. A spreadsheet didn't used to mean a computer program. It used to mean a large sheet with ruled columns, and you would write numbers and calculate numbers onto the spreadsheet. That's where the term came from. People naturally thought that, well, accountants, they're going to be out of a job. Well, there are more accountants today than there were back then. Well, why is that? It's because the nature of the accounting job changed, and the level of analysis that one can do using those tools is so much greater that it's done nothing but create more demand for accountants. Now, if all you knew how to do was to fill in those numbers and write those calculations, you're out of a job. But if you know how to use these tools to do business projections or to write business plans, then of course this has had a very positive impact, and those are valuable skills which you can now sell as an accountant. This is a very good question. My book, Humans Need Not Apply, what I was right about was that AI is going to change a lot in the nature of work. And so it was going to put a lot of people out of work. I didn't really understand that the nature of the work changes and that the new jobs arise as consistently as the old jobs go away. And so I don't recommend that you read my book. For me, you should listen to what I have to say is the important thing. Never listen to me, because I would have said your kid should learn how to program, and that was exactly the wrong thing. There will be new kinds of work, and I would even argue more meaningful work, work that people will take greater pride in and where they will feel like they've accomplished more. Much of the work that people do today is really routine, rote work, repetitive work. The future of work, paradoxically, because of artificial intelligence, is it's going to free us up from all of this routine work that so many people do, and it's going to permit us to spend our time engaged much more directly with other people. The jobs of the future are very likely to be ones that involve person-to-person contact. Your ability to express empathy, to be able to listen, to make a person feel like they've been heard, to understand their problem, and to suggest ways in which they might be able to solve those problems. The truth is that, of course, a lot of people are going to find that their jobs either go away or are changed. Bernie Sanders is right in the sense that probably tens of millions of jobs are going to be eliminated over the next 10 to 20 years. But that doesn't mean that people will be out of work. What it means is that the nature of work is going to change, and there will be new kinds of work and new kinds of jobs that will employ those people, and probably in much more emotionally satisfying and psychologically valuable ways. I think it's a mistake, really, to think of these machines in terms of intelligence. When people think about human intelligence, they have this myth that it's some kind of linear measure. So intelligence is not a simple linear scale of some kind, and that machines are getting higher and higher on that scale. All that's happening is we're developing machines that can perform different classes of tasks. Now, we tend to think of these LLMs as being intelligent because they're so good at mimicking the way in which we talk and the way in which we interact, that previously we had to perform using our native intelligence. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily intelligent. I don't know that that's an appropriate word to apply to these particular kinds of systems. This is a kind of false anthropomorphism, thinking that machines are like human beings, that they have agency, that they have desires and goals. And that is simply not the case. These machines are tools, and we should use them for what they're good for, and we should not use them for what they're not good for. I don't think we need to worry about them getting more and more intelligent, because it can't do anything we can do, and it never will be able to do anything we can do. But there are many tasks that we can do which it can do better. Now, is that something to worry about? Absolutely not. You know, a car can drive faster than I can run. That doesn't worry me. That said, there's a lot of work going on in artificial intelligence so that these systems can be incrementally trained and continue to learn, as people do in some sense, as they go. And that will be one of the great ways in which we'll see artificial intelligence improved in the future. Yes. One of the great unintentional marketing coups in history was by a guy named John McCarthy, who invented the word artificial intelligence in 1956 at a conference. Says, let's work on artificial intelligence. I don't think he understood how that was going to resonate among the general public, and in particular with the media, with the entertainment media. But had he simply called it what it was at the time, which is mostly symbolic processing and reasoning, logical reasoning by a machine, we wouldn't have had this same emotional reaction, or the idea that, oh my God, we're creating something new that's potentially going to rise up and take over or harm us in some way. Some people, for example, worry about a ridiculous concept called AGI, Artificial General Intelligence. And this is the idea that someday machines will be so intelligent, they'll outthink us and take over, and we won't be necessary anymore. This is completely ridiculous, and it's not a meaningful statement. First of all, nobody can define what AGI really is and how we would know if we got there. If we did reach some definition of AGI, whatever you want to call it, and what will happen the next day? The machine's just going to sit there until you tell it to do something. So most of the fears and dangers that people are worried about with the new technology is not really a fear of the new technology. It's a fear of what people are going to use the new technology to do. And that's something that we're going to have to be very careful about.
How do you think about the concept of singularity?
The idea there is that when you build the machines to a certain point, they'll be able to improve themselves. And once they can improve themselves, that will accelerate off, and they'll suddenly become so intelligent we can't even converse with them or something. The idea that that's somehow going to accelerate has never been the case in the history of technology, and I'm confident it's not going to happen here. These things will increase to some point. It'll accelerate our ability to make improvements, but then it will begin to tailor off. So the idea of the singularity that somehow we're going, it's really a pseudo-religious concept. It's the idea of the rapture, that a God, in this case the God coming from the machine, will come and say, this is a new time, and all the believers are coming with me to heaven, and everybody else is going to be dead. It's a religious concept, and there's these modern mystics, religious mystics, I would call them, that are promoting this nonsense from a religious, it's mostly a modern religious technical movement, and it's no more true today than it has been in the past. He's overstating the case because he knows that it will be overinterpreted, misinterpreted in terms of this. He's welcome to have the opinion that LLMs are going to be obsolete in 5 years. But what I can tell you is this: the technology that we have in hand today with LLMs, we haven't even begun to mine the economic and social value that we can get out of those. So even if we stopped all AI research today, we'd have easily 10 years of benefits yet to be realized out of the existing technology. Are we going to have a new wave of AI sometime in the future, which will supplant LLMs? It's quite possible that that's the case. The LLMs currently are trained based on primarily words, like words and pictures. But what Yann LeCun is really saying is that you need to have some kind of common sense physics, knowledge of how the real world works. That when you pick up a glass with water in it and you tip it over, the water is going to come out. And why is that? Now, every child knows not to spill their water. If they turn it, they're going to spill their water. That kind of knowledge doesn't come naturally to today's LLMs. They have to learn that from words, what people have said about holding a glass of water and tipping a glass of water. So I do agree that an area of great potential for artificial intelligence is a new wave of work that creates what he's calling a world model. That's a major area of focus for future research. And it's a little bit of an overstatement to say, well, we're not going to have LLMs, we'll have something new. Well, I think we're in the middle of a big AI bubble. But this is an economic question, which is separate from the question of is it a good technology and will it be useful? Every time we've had a major new technology where it became obvious to the financial community that this was going to be very valuable, a great deal of investment came in, and usually a lot of infrastructure got built out, and a lot of that, let's just say, it didn't pay back. When you look at the amount of money that's being promised for the build out of AI data centers today, the amount of money that has to be generated or made to pay that back is so large that it's very, very hard to believe that that could ever occur in a time frame that will matter relative to the current investment. And I say that because if you build an AI data center today, it's obsolete in 3 to 5 years. And nobody wants 3-year-old computers. It's just as simple as that. So to me, the economics just don't add up. Already, just in the past few weeks, as the time of this filming, OpenAI went from saying, we're going to build $1.5 trillion worth of AI data centers to drive our business. And I think it's collapsed down to, I forget whether the exact number, 700 or 800 billion. Okay, well, it's already coming down quickly. That's the bubble deflating. The money was never actually there. And luckily, the sooner that people become realistic about what's needed and how much investment should get made, the better off we're all going to be, so that we're not crushed by another collapse as we were in the internet bubble when it burst around the year 2000. Well, the sooner it bursts, the better. The real question is it a bubble that bursts, as happened with the internet, or is it a balloon that we're going to let the air out of? If it happens slowly, things will be fine. A bunch of investors are going to lose their money, and that's okay, but it's getting pretty bad, and my advice would be don't invest in artificial intelligence. As with the automobile companies, as with the early computer companies, we don't need 10 or 20 of these. We only need 2 or 3 basic systems. These are so-called foundation models. And when you've got 20 companies building them, and each of them spending tens of billions of dollars and claiming that they need all of this computing and all of these NVIDIA chips, that's what it's a mirage. And that will collapse down to a few companies, and the competition alone will drive down the price at which these people can sell their products. Now, I was surprised to read just recently that most of the AI companies that are providing the service to you and charging for it are losing money on the actual service that they're providing. That is to say, it's costing more to answer your questions on Google or with Gemini or with Anthropic's Claude or ChatGPT than the average person is paying for that service. That's a very dangerous situation.
Every Korean invests AI companies.
Let me say for the record, I have 4 children. 2 of them work full-time at NVIDIA, and they're doing great. But I will tell you this, my advice to them, when your stock options vest, sell it right away.
Really?
And they do. Every quarter, did you sell your stock? Oh, Dad, I don't know. I think it's going to go up.
Thank you for your advice.
Well, I think having some capability to develop fundamental foundation models is valuable, perhaps for Korea. But it isn't necessarily important, particularly because let the silly and dumb people in the United States and in China beat themselves up to try to beat each other at this game. And what will result is that the technology will be available to Korea at very reasonable prices without Korea having to have put that enormous investment into those platforms. However, Korea can benefit greatly from them by adding layers of value on top of them and building that technology into products in unique and interesting and different ways. That's what Korea has historically been very good at, everywhere from shipbuilding all the way through memory manufacturing. And there's no reason to think that Korea has to change its business model for artificial intelligence. That's what the Korean culture has been very good at. What are the applications? How is this going to be used? Korea has a terrific history of doing that very, very well. And I look forward to buying very many Korean products using artificial intelligence over the next several decades.
AI is developing its own style. I think it does feel like a new species. AI, it's not a good storyteller, but I think storytelling is a very human impulse. In that culture, there's something very resilient about culture.